Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. Was the recent reshuffle just a wasted opportunity as well as a waste of time? That's the key issue I should explore today with the Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Ambika Soni. Mrs. Soni, there is a view that all the Prime Minister did was to rearrange the chairs on the deck of the Titanic as the ship continues to sink. This was a pointless exercise.
No, I don't think any exercise is pointless, especially when the Prime Minister has applied his mind, the UPA chairperson has also given her inputs. No exercise is pointless. You may say it wasn't as dramatic or as comprehensive as you might have expected it to be, but then the Prime Minister said so himself.
Forgive me,
a bigger exercise
what was the point of this exercise? Explain it to me, because no one in the country is understood.
Why? What's wrong? Look at the younger people. They're getting more experience of different ministries. People are...
Two younger people have had their portfolios changed.
No, Karan, I'm not talking of... No. Younger people have shifted from one ministry to another. Road transport, home, sports and youth. You have Ajay Makan taking an independent charge. You have 3 cabinet ministers who have been upgraded from independent charge. Praful is young. Surely Praful is young. Salman is young.
If people in their mid-50s are considered young, then no one's going to be considered old in this country. We really are playing around with age when you make that point.
No, it's not always the years which count, Karan. It's the experience you have.
Youth is determined by age, forgive me.
Pardon?
Youth is determined by age.
No, that's true, but you can be young in your thinking. You can be young. Now, I'm touching 68. I don't feel 68.
By your logic, the Prime Minister at 78 touching 79 is young because he's young in his thinking, but we're playing around with words when we say this.
But we are India. Age has always had its own value in India.
In which case, why talk about wanting to bring young people in? The Prime Minister's been going on about that for the last 6 months. He hasn't
You have a Venugopal who's come in from Kerala. You have, who else? I mean, there are 2-3 other younger people.
Let me put it like this. The Prime Minister...
There's Jatin Prasad, there's RPN Singh, there's Ajay Makan who's been given...
There's just the 3 of them. Let me put it like this. The Prime Minister has gone on record on the night of the reshuffle that there will be a more expansive exercise after the budget session. Yeah. I put it to you. What then was the point of this exercise? What has been achieved by a silly game of musical chairs?
No. This is not... I mean, you may say whatever you like. It sounds good, but it's not effectively correct. You see, we are going in for elections. We are going in for the budget session, which is the principal session of Parliament. And during this period, the Prime Minister will see the younger people, the people who got their portfolios changed, how their performance is, and who else to be added, because we are in a coalition.
So 8 weeks later, he's going to reshuffle and remove people who've just got jobs? That would be unfair, if not illogical.
You know that no one has been taken in from Trinamool. Nobody has been taken over from DMK. There are elections in Tamil Nadu and West Bengal. Let's see how the leaders of those two parties also do this.
Let me put to you 3 critical concerns.
This is an ongoing exercise. You know,
forgive me, reshuffles ought not to be ongoing exercises. That simply disturbs the government.
No, in 5 years, governments have known to reshuffle, the cabinets to be reshuffled quite a few times.
Let me put to you 3 critical concerns at the moment as a result of this reshuffle. At a time when the government faces serious allegations of corruption and incompetence, not a single minister has been dropped by the Prime Minister. What message does that send the country about his concern for probity and performance?
Prime Minister has his reasons.
What are they?
He knows them. I haven't questioned the Prime Minister.
But why are they a secret from the country?
No, they are not secret. Prime Minister is not supposed to give public discourse on why he is dropping a minister,
when the country believes his ministers are incompetent and corrupt and he doesn't drop one, it suggests that he doesn't care about the accusations.
No, Karan, I don't think that sweeping statement is justified. Nobody is corrupt till proven so. There are inquiries going on into various...
So allegations of corruption don't matter to this government at all?
No. Allegations have to be proved. There is an opposition, and I'm afraid increasingly the press is also taking on that role of making allegations just as they come.
So you're dismissing all the concerns about 2G, CWG, Adarsh and all the other charges of incompetence against this government. They don't matter.
I am not dismissing any charge which has been made, because the Prime Minister has taken every single charge seriously, and agencies and commissions have been put in place to look into that.
Let me tell you a second concern that people have with this reshuffle. They say that the Prime Minister tried to create the illusion of change. He was perhaps hoping to fool the people into believing there had been change. He's failed and he's ended up diminishing himself.
No, I'm sorry. Dr. Manmohan Singh is well known in this country. Nobody, no matter how angry they may be for whatever reason any citizen may be, they will never think of Dr. Manmohan Singh as wanting to fool anybody, because that's not him.
All right, let me put a third concern to you. The government urgently and desperately needs an image makeover. Do you really believe that this is going to change the way the country thinks of this government?
Well, I think so. I've seen a lot of new ministers who've taken over new portfolios, making opening statements, and I think some of them are quite excited.
All right,
let me
quote to you the Business Standard. To expect that the reshuffle will restore new momentum to the union government and improve the government's image and credibility would be unrealistic.
No, well, that may be their thinking, but you know, Karan, I've been in public life for almost 40 years, and it is a fact. You may be looking after one certain assignment, but if your assignment is changed, maybe you do a better job.
That sounds like a desperate hope rather than any experience or reality.
No. Karan, we are running a coalition government. There are lots of factors which have to be taken into consideration. The Prime Minister, while making his cabinet, has to look at regional representation, has to look at various sections of our population being represented. There are sensitivities in this country which have manifested themselves when they are ignored, and that exercise gives you a collection of people who are having their USPs in the electorate of this country.
Mrs. Soni, read any single newspaper and you can't fail to notice the disappointment, if not the disillusionment. Let me just quote a few. The Times of India says it's a damp squib. The Hindu says a case study in timidity and pointlessness. The Business Standard, suboptimal. The Indian Express, cosmetic tinkering. The Hindustan Times, a lost opportunity. The Economic Times is most blunt. This isn't it. You've got a thumbs down from every paper in the country.
No, it's because you all were speculating. You went just across the board speculating, announcing names of new ministers, what portfolios they would have. That was all speculation. When your speculation has not proven correct, so you've got to blame somebody.
So the press is guilty, so you're blaming the press.
No.
You're blaming the press.
Don't you think it is right for the Prime Minister, and it is his prerogative, to change as much and of whoever he wants, and as much as he wants, and as often as he wants?
You're missing the point.
Right or not?
You're missing the point. Of course it's his prerogative, no one denies it, but when the Prime Minister fails to respond to the mood of the country and claims that he's reshuffled a government which actually looks no better, if not worse, then he is going to end up facing criticism.
This is a minor reshuffle. The major
34 ministers swapped around,
after
3 new ones brought in, 37 altogether. That's not minor. But the end result is irrelevant. That's the problem.
He has assured on the day of the cabinet reshuffle that a major cabinet reshuffle will be undertaken after the elections, after the alliance partners are free from their state elections, and budget session.
Let me put a simple point to you. Perhaps the single greatest political threat you face at the moment is the handling of Parliament, particularly if the opposition carry out their implicit threat to disrupt the next session. And yet, what has he done? Instead of gearing himself up to face this, he's kept Pavan Bansal in parliamentary affairs, when even the Congress party doesn't deny that the man is not the best for the job.
Well, Congress party is represented at in this exercise by the Congress President, the UPA chairperson. She and Dr. Manmohan Singh have jointly brought this.
And she therefore shares the blame with him.
No, Pavan Bansal has acquitted himself. And surely both the leaders must be thinking in those lines. That's why he retains his parliamentary portfolio.
I don't want to continue with Pavan Bansal because it would embarrass him to repeat what Congress MPs say of him. Let me come to a second issue.
No, it's not fair, Karan, and I would not like to talk about individual ministers.
I'm not talking about individuals. I'm coming to a second issue this time. The Prime Minister has repeatedly said that he wants to beef up the infrastructure ministries. But by giving steel to Beni Prasad Verma, highways to CP Joshi, aviation to Vyala Ravi, mines to Dinsha Patil, and keeping power with Shinde and railways with Mamta, he hasn't improved the situation. Many people think he's actually weakened the infrastructure ministries. Once again, what has he achieved?
Karan, when you join politics, contest an election and hopefully get elected as Prime Minister, I will ask you then, sitting in your place, how difficult it is to make a coalition in a government in a country like India, the size and dimension of a subcontinent.
You know what you're saying? You know what you're saying?
A coalition,
you're saying when the going gets tough, the Prime Minister gives in. He wasn't able to rise to the challenge.
That the going gets tough. There are people with proven abilities who've proven themselves over 40 years, 30 years in public life, who have been given responsibilities. Just because some of us may feel otherwise doesn't make those individuals, those leaders incompetent or not fit for the job.
All right, let's take a break at that point. When I come back, I want to put you the serious, if not disturbing questions that have been raised about the Prime Minister's leadership as a result of this reshuffle. That's in a moment's time. See you after the break. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and an interview with the Information and Broadcasting Minister about the recent government reshuffle. Mrs. Soni, the reshuffle has also raised serious, if not disturbing, questions about the Prime Minister's own leadership. Clearly, by his own admission, he wanted to do more but didn't. Did someone stop him?
No. It's not a question of anybody stopping the Prime Minister. The UPA chairperson and the Prime Minister together take decisions and nobody stops them.
That's the question I'm actually asking. Did the UPA chairperson, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, restrain the Prime Minister?
Well, I'm not privy to the discussions they have. They both do and take decisions which are in the best interest of the country and
Explain
the
something
government
to me.
party.
This Prime Minister, since at least the 8th of September, has been telling editors about the reshuffle he wants, about the things he wants to do, and he spelled them out in explicit detail. How come 3.5 months later, he's not able to do what he's been wanting to do since September?
Well, if the Parliament had functioned the way it was supposed to function and the opposition had played a negative role.
How does that stop the Prime Minister changing the cabinet as he wants?
It changes the whole dimensions and the dynamics of political functioning. It takes time to either resolve that issue of Parliament and the mechanisms which have to be set in place.
In which case, delay this reshuffle till you're ready to do it properly. Why have a halfway house that's pointless?
The delay brings elections on the threshold.
But you aren't any better for the elections as a result of this. Arguably, you're worse because you've actually disappointed people and created doubts about the Prime Minister.
There has been extra representation to some states going to elections. The alliance partners who are also going to see elections.
3 new ministers from UP means you're going to win UP?
No, why not?
A few more from Kerala means you're going to win Kerala? Are you fooling the people into believing that you've done something substantive by adding 2 or 3 to the cabinet?
I'm telling you, you are now really staking your credibility with what you are saying. We are going to win UP. We are going to make the difference in UP. You will mark my word. Kerala, of course, we are going to
Let me put you a second major concern about the Prime Minister's leadership which emerges from this reshuffle. People ask, is he too weak and vacillating to be tough and decisive? You know, you all have been speculating about the Prime Minister for I don't know how long.
He is the Prime Minister, that's why. And Mr. L.K. Advani spoke out his mind, maybe provoked by many close friends.
And many people today seem to agree with Advani.
And lost out for what he said about the Prime Minister during the campaign in 2009. One of the principal reasons they lost out was what he said about the Prime Minister.
Mrs. Soni, the critical point is this, that this Prime Minister seems to lack the courage, or at least the conviction, to sack ministers who are incompetent.
Karan, I think you are really judging a personality like Dr. Manmohan Singh on a very small criteria. Cabinet reshuffle, a mini reshuffle and a major one.
It's not a small criteria. No, if a Prime Minister can't sack people who are incompetent, it means he's weak or his judgment is lacking.
Karan, you've said enough. Dr. Manmohan Singh, in the first 5 years of the UPA, proved himself as an able leader, as an able Prime Minister. We won with an increased mandate in 2009. These things don't happen just by themselves. We have had world leaders acknowledge the acumen of the Indian Prime Minister. He's been invited to attend international meetings where normally people are not invited. Just hold it. You know that in the last few months, 3 months, 4 months maybe, as has often been said, all the members of the permanent members of the Security Council have visited India. Why? For economic reasons. They come to India looking for economic reasons. That means the Indian Prime Minister led a government, led the country through the economic downslide, which still the world hasn't come out of, and India has got a growth rate of almost 9 to 10%.
No one is questioning the intelligence of the Prime Minister. It's his strength and his leadership. Can I finish?
No. But you're going on saying that leadership has not shown in because he hasn't dropped the minister.
Soni, it's since Sharm el-Sheikh in July 2009 that questions about the Prime Minister's leadership have been asked. Questions about his ability to get his way have been asked today. Those questions are even more acute and embarrassing. Doesn't that worry you?
No, because I don't agree with you at all. Why should I be worried when I don't agree with you at all? Because I don't think you are working on the right premise.
All right, let me raise a second issue.
I would like to say, and I don't want to sound bumptious or whatever you may say, if you had a referendum in this country today, there are issues which are of great concern to the people, price rise being one of them.
And you're failing on price rise at the moment?
No, lots of steps are being taken. But the people of this country do realize that the leadership which the UPA has is not, you cannot compare other parties with the leadership of the UPA.
That's what you think. I won't question it. You have a right to that opinion. Let me pick up on something
you
said.
I don't want my party or my government to be complacent.
Let me pick up on something you said right at the beginning of part 2 when you were defending the Prime Minister. You said the decisions on this reshuffle were taken jointly by the Prime Minister and Mrs. Gandhi.
Yes, that's true.
Why Mrs. Gandhi? If Mrs. Gandhi is to be involved in a coalition government, why not the heads of all the other political parties? They have as much of a right as well. Why her?
She is the UPA chairperson, unanimously elected by all the leaders of the coalition partners.
But she's infringing upon the prerogative of the Prime Minister. Constitutionally, it's the right of the Prime Minister to appoint the cabinet. Why should Mrs. Gandhi be involved?
You are not going to divide our leadership. There are no fissures. Unfortunately for all of the people in the opposition and some sections of the media, Mrs. Gandhi and Dr. Manmohan Singh have worked so admirably together that the people of this country, recognizing the joint
that's not the question I asked.
In 2009, we got an increased mandate.
Let me put it like
Putting
this.
paid to all
Allies of yours who are also members of the UPA, like Mamta, like Sharad Pawar, like Karunanidhi, happy that the UPA chairperson should play a critical role in appointing the cabinet, but they not be consulted or involved in any way at all?
How do you know? How do you know? When the two leaders I've mentioned who play the critical role, they automatically, obviously, interact with the leaders of the other parties.
If they had interacted, you'd have mentioned it and said that, in fact, all the UPA heads of parties were involved. You only said Sonia was involved.
That's taken for granted. We have ministers from all the coalition partners. We have the ministers in the party, important ministers in the UPA.
So then are you also saying that today when every single, and I repeat it, every single newspaper has given you a thumbs down, that all the UPA heads of political parties are as responsible for this disappointment as the PM and Mrs. Gandhi?
I do not firstly consider it a disappointment.
The country does. The press does.
We haven't taken a vote on that. The press, I told you the reason why the press felt disappointed, because their speculations were proven wrong. What they were predicting and prophesizing and writing about didn't happen, so they're naturally disappointed.
All right, Mrs. Soni, I'll let you have the last word. A pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Karan.